Let's start with the first one. So I said to you when we spoke about this question last week that the key to this sum is this equation given, but it's not in standard form. So you're going to have to start always, if you have an equation and it's not in standard form, to convert it to a standard form. And then we'll go from there on. So the first question was to determine the coordinates of E. What I wanted you to see there is that E is the y-intercept of the line CD. And remember, you've got the equation of CD. So we take the equation of CD, we get it into standard form, and then the C value, that one, is the value of the y in the y-intercept. An intercept, any intercept, it means one of your coordinates are 0. If it's a y-intercept, the x is 0. If it's an x-intercept, the y is 0. So therefore, I knew it's going to be 0 and 3. Next up, they asked you to determine the gradient of CD. So the gradient of CD, once you have the equation in standard form, all you need to do is take the gradient from the equation. And then it's negative 3 over 2. Next, they asked you to calculate the value of alpha. So alpha, will you just check this? Sorry. Kan ek hom vir jou stuur? Kan ek nie die hele ding vir jou wanneer? Ja. Asseblief. Kom sê net vir myself, want ek gaan ons saam. Weg. Okay, determine the gradient of, no, we are calculating the value of alpha. So you need to look here, and guys, you need to have the summary next to you when you are doing this work, when you're working out the question papers. You cannot just go and think, oh, I have this new work. You must have the piece of paper next to you. So that alpha is the inclination angle. It's the inclination angle of a line that has a negative gradient. Can you all see that? Good. So in our notes, I showed you that you are going to take the gradient of that line. The tan of alpha will be equal to that gradient. But now, when you press it on your calculator, you ignore the negative. And you just press shift tan 3 over 2. And then it gives you 56,309. But because it had a negative, you're going to say 180 minus the value that you get. And then you get the answer, an obtuse angle, as we expected it to be, of 123,69. You all understand? Did you get it? Right, next, hence determine the value of beta, and this is going to be the way that they use the inclination angle with most of the sums. You just calculated alpha, they gave you that angle AED, and you have to calculate beta. So beta and AED, the two of them together is the sum of the opposite interior angles if alpha is exterior. So all you're going to do is, I wrote this, you don't have to write this, you can just give the answer or do the subtraction sum. But you must give the reason exterior angle of triangle. Whenever you use a Euclidean geometry reason, you have to give the reason. And then you find beta to be 60 degrees. Okay, the only question in this one that had a bit of a challenge for you to maybe see the answer is to determine the equation of AB in the form y equal to mx plus c. So the problem with that AB, if you look here, you don't have the coordinates of A and you only have a piece of the coordinate of B. You do have a coordinate of E. It's the same E that was on CD. So you've got that coordinate that's 0 and 3. But in order to be able to calculate the gradient to get the equation, you need two coordinates. Whenever you want to find the equation of a straight line, you need two coordinates. And we don't have it at this stage. Okay. So what they wanted you to see is the inclination angle that you have. It's 60 degrees. Now remember, the inclination angle says that the tan of the angle is equal to the gradient of the straight line that creates that inclination angle. So the tan of beta is the gradient of AB. Does that make sense? So all you had to say was tan 60, and then you get root 3. So you have the gradient of the equation, and then one of two ways that you can calculate C. Either you can substitute that coordinate E. Does that make sense? Ne? When you've got the equation of a straight line and you've got either the C value or the M value, you get a coordinate, you put it into X and Y, and then you can solve the other variable. So I put that E coordinate. That's what I put in there in the place of X and Y, and then I find C to be 3. But you could also have just read it from your graph. So you can do it algebraically like we did there, or you can do it graphically. Remember we said C is the y-intercept of the straight line. And there is the y-intercept of the straight line. So you could have just taken it from the graph. Then your equation is root 3x plus 3. Next, you have to calculate the value of t. So t is part of the coordinate of b. So it's on this straight line. So all you need to do is take that equation of the straight line that you just found and substitute the x value into it. Then we're going to say root 3 plus 3, and you find your answer to be 6. T is equal to 6. Okay, the last one, I hope you saw that it counted 5 marks. That means there's quite a lot of work that you need to do. But this is also a November question paper. Now in the third term, when we're going to do trigonometry again, we're going to learn a sine, cosine and area rule. So at this stage you would have been able to use the sine, cosine and area rule, which would have made calculating this area much easier. But I am going to show it to you if you didn't, well, obviously we didn't have the trigonometric rules to do it. So I want you to listen to my plan. Firstly, the triangle they are referring to is ABD. To calculate the area of a triangle, I'm going to say half times base times perpendicular height. Now, I have the perpendicular height. Do you agree with me? I just calculated it. It's T. So that side is 6. I have the perpendicular height. All I need is this base. Okay. I have the half, it's a constant. I have the perpendicular height. I need the base. Now when I look at the base, and this is a very, very important thing for you to notice. A is an x-intercept. D is an x-intercept. Do you know what an intercept means? It means that the other one is 0. So because it's an x-intercept, the y is 0 there. Because it's an x-intercept of this line, the y is 0 there. So I also know that the y value of A is 0 and the y value of D is 0. Does that make sense? Do I have the equation of AB? Yes. Do I have the equation of DE? Even though it's not DB, even if it's DE, what was it, CD? Because you see, it's intercepting at the same point. I just want that X value. It's all I want. And they gave me the equation of CD. Okay. So what I did is I made y 0 in both of the two equations. Then I found the x to be negative 3 over root 3, and I found the x to be 2. Now before we do the rest of the calculation, because that can be quite confusing, I just want to know, do you all understand the plan? Do you understand why I'm getting that value? And how? And why I'm getting that value and why? And how? Yes. So if that was 3 and that was negative 2, we would just say 3 minus negative 2, we would know it's 5. Ne? Okay. Now what made this sum a little bit more difficult is because this answer is now in surd form. Okay. So that A value, the x value is negative 3 over root 3. If you use the calculator, they got negative root 3. It's fine as well. Okay? And then D is 2. So I subtracted to that number that I highlighted there. That's the same as 2 plus root 3. This is just a decimal, and this is when it's in surd form. And both of them I get by subtracting these two from each other. So calculating the area, I would say a half times the base, which is 2 plus root 3, times the perpendicular height, which is 6. And then that's the surd form answer, that's the decimal answer. And then you would write units squared. You all understand? Okay. We are going to move on to the next question. Is question 4. I'm going to talk to you about it now. And then you're going to start now during class. You're going to do question 4. And then you're going to page the next one, which is question 3 of 2018. You're going to do that one as well. Do you have it there? Okay, so let's first talk about question 4. Whenever you get a analytical geometry problem, analytical or Euclidean, whatever, they can sometimes give us information before the diagram, and then they indicate it on the diagram as well, but they don't always indicate it on the diagram. So be sure that you indicate it, because then it's easier to use it when you can see it. So they're telling me that B is equal to 90 degrees, angle B. Then they say B is 1 and 3. A and C lie on the line X is equal to 3. Do you know what that means? It means C's X value is 3. And A's x value is 3. And every other point that lies on that line will have an x value of 3. But at this stage, I don't know what the y value is. I don't have any information for y. Do you understand? Okay. And then they say the length of AB is 2 root 5. And the length of AC is 5. Now I gave you this summary as well, ne? Analytical geometry. What we have is a distance formula, a gradient formula. We have a midpoint formula. We have information on parallel lines, perpendicular lines, a straight line equation, horizontal line, vertical line, what collinear means, and the inclination angle. Are you happy with that? Okay. Now we go to our question. I want to find that unknown value there. Right there. Okay. So I see the 90 degrees. Do you all see? What does 90 degrees mean in analytical geometry? Perpendicular lines. Okay? And perpendicular lines means that the gradients, the product of the gradients will be -1. No. But can I calculate the gradient of this one? Can I calculate the gradient of that one? No, so the gradient doesn't help me. Okay. Did they mention anything about the midpoint? No, nothing. Okay. Did they mention something about a distance? A length? Yes, they gave me 2 lengths. They're telling me that AB is 2√5 and AC is 5. Okay. Which of these things can I use to find the y value of A? The distance, because I've got the answer. I've got 2 of the x's and I just need 1 y. Now remember, we spoke about that second formula there, ne? We did, ne? Okay, so I told you, if they've given you the distance, it's easier to use the second one, the d squared, because then you're not working with the root. And then it's already much easier. Okay, so I would use that there to find the value of A. Okay. Now, if you find the y value of A, and let's say it's 12. Let's pretend it's 12. It's not 12, okay? Let's pretend it's 12. Who has a plan to find the y value of C, which is the next question? The x's are the same. I'm telling you A is 12. They are saying this distance is 5. What is that one going to be? 12 minus 5, which is 7. Does that make sense? Okay. So you can do that one. Show that the midpoint of AC is 3 and 4,5. Can you calculate the midpoint? Yes. So you have the coordinates of A, you have the coordinates of C. Show that the midpoint is 3 and 4,5. Right. Now we get to the main question. You can draw a line through 4,5. We're not going to do that right now because we haven't done functions, so we can't reflect and translate. Now the first thing that's very important at 4.4 is they're asking you to determine the coordinates of D so that ABCD is a parallelogram. So there is no D, ne? You're going to have to put in the D. Now look at the problem. If I put D there, there is a parallelogram. If I put D here, there is a parallelogram. Can you see it? If I put D there, there is a parallelogram. Where must I put it? Now you're always going to look at the order of these variables. So A, B, C, D. They must follow like that. So it's not A, D, B, C. It's not A, B, D, C. It's A, B, C, D. Does that make sense? That's very important. Okay. Because you can imagine if you're going to put it at the wrong place, at a different place, you'll get everything wrong. So we know for sure it's that D. What we want to calculate is the x and the y. They named it A and B as well, it doesn't matter. Now let me tell you what all of you would normally do. We would jump in and say, this is easy. I know a parallelogram has got two sets of equal sides. No? Opposite sides equal. So many learners would go, they'd say, I know because this is 2 root 5, this must be 2 root 5 as well. No? That makes sense. And then substitute into the formula, and then you get stuck because you'll have an unknown x and you'll have an unknown y. You won't be able to solve it because it's one formula. Then some learners say, oh, but it's easy. I can calculate this gradient, and then I know that this gradient will be the same as well. But then you'll be stuck with the same problem. Because once again, you'll have two variables. You'll have an unknown y, and you'll have an unknown x. Now, who can remember, you can page back as well. When we did the quadrilaterals, I had you write down what is the most important thing to remember about the parallelogram in grade 11. The diagonals bisect each other. What does bisect mean? In the middle. Do we have something about the middle? Yes. And do you remember what's special about the midpoint formula? Homotso? It's two separate equations. And therefore you can calculate two variables. Do you understand? Yes. Okay. And you see, if you don't know that, there's no way that you can calculate this. So we are going to calculate the midpoint of AC, get an answer. And then when we have the answer, we know that that's also the answer of the midpoint of BD. And that's it. Okay. Then I think I'll give you a few minutes to just go on with this one. Then I will say something about the next question. But I want to show you, just when we read this thing or read the information, they've given you 4 points, but D is unknown. They're saying they are vertices of a quadrilateral. Do you see they are not vertices of a parallelogram or a rhombus or a kite or a square or a rectangle? So you cannot use the properties of those things. Right. All we know is that it's a quad. Right. So the first one, they want you to calculate the gradient of BC. Will you be able to do that? You've got the coordinates of B, you've got the coordinates of C. The equation of AD. Now there's a big problem. Let's see if any one of you can figure it out. I will tell you how by the end of the period, but maybe you can figure it out yourself. Once you have the gradient, you can find the value of t. Okay? Because they are collinear. Or you can find the equation and then just substitute that y0 value. Then you can find t. The length of AN, if you found t, you can use the distance formula to calculate AN. Then 3.5, let me just quickly tell you about this one. 3.5. They are giving you the equation of DC. Right? You would already have the equation of AD. Now, I'm telling you this because I'm not sure how much you did in grade 10. If we've got two straight lines that intersect each other, do you know how to find the value where they intersect? No one? Okay. We let the two equations be equal to each other. Does that ring a bell? Okay. If I want to know where, let me write it here, where y equal to 3x plus 5 and y equal to 2x minus 4 intercept. I see that they are both equal to y. And if they are equal to the same thing, I know that they are equal to each other. So all I'm going to do is I take the part that has the x, I let it be equal to the other part that has the x, and I solve it. So I take the x's to one side, it's 3x minus 2x, it's x, minus 4 minus 5 is equal to minus 9. Then I've got the x value. Do you remember simultaneous equations? This is the same thing. Right? Then you take the x value, you choose into which one you want to put it. So let's say I say 3 times negative 9 plus 5, that's negative 27 plus 5 is going to be equal to negative 22. So where do they intercept? Negative 9 and negative 22. That's how you calculate a point of intersection. You get the two equations, you let them be equal to each other. So you throw away their y's. So they have to be in standard form. Right. That's going to be what happens at 3.5. And then you have to prove that ABCD is a parallelogram. Many ways. One, prove the midpoints of the diagonals are the same. Then it's a parallelogram. Right? Or, listen now carefully. These are different ways that you can prove a parallelogram. You've got this side parallel to that side. So all you need is that this side and this side is also parallel. Then you've proven a parallelogram. Okay. Or you can prove that this side is equal to this side. Then you've proven that it's a parallelogram. Because then you've got one pair of opposite sides equal and parallel. So it's either two sets parallel or two sets equal or one set equal and parallel. And then the diagonals bisect. Any one of those. And then the last one, calculate the coordinates of M. M will be the midpoint once you've proven that it is a parallelogram. Okay, so you can start with question 4 right now. I want to help you as well.